Basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Vault. On the break, I just thought, why not come in again? We've got Big Shot Rob, one of the biggest Jets fans we know here. So we had to come on. We had to break down what's going on with the New York Jets right now. Rob, you're the Jets fan. Address the nation. What do you think of the recent moves?
Todd Bowles, great. I think it's a pretty decent signing. I mean, he's a great defensive coach. The Arizona Cardinals have been one of the top defenses over the past 2 years. I've seen what he did this year, missing so many key players, and this guy just has a tremendous defense. It's a good move, but in my eyes, they should have gone more towards the offense, Joe, because we haven't produced a great quarterback over the last couple of years. Growing up as a kid, I could say I got to see Chad Pennington and Vinny Testaverde as the only good Jets quarterbacks I had growing up. And since then, there really hasn't been many Jet quarterbacks that we have produced that are good. Mark Sanchez had 2 great years going back-to-back AFC championships, struggled after that. Geno Smith's just been plain awful. And I think what we really needed was an offensive-minded coach, and the Jets really didn't fill that gap that they needed.
I'm with you. It's kind of weird when you see a team go from defensive guy to defensive guy to defensive guy. It's usually, defense, you think you would have switched to an offensive guy. But I do like Bowles a lot. I've read a lot of things about him. Very hardworking guy who's been trying to get a head coaching job for a really long time now. So I'm really happy that he got a chance. And he kind of reminds me his path of Bruce Arians a little bit. Bruce Arians was kind of that guy who was in the same boat, did a lot of great things as an assistant, as a coordinator for a long time, has been waiting for his opportunity for so long, and he got it, and look how much good things he's been doing with the Arizona Cardinals. So his path reminds me a little bit of it, and like you alluded to earlier, you can't argue with his success with the Cardinals. That defense that he built there was outstanding. They were disciplined. They never broke down in coverages. They were just very, very tactically sound. I really like what he did there. Now, here's my big problem, Rob, is I was a big fan of the hire at first, and then I read all this garbage that he's bringing in Chan Gailey as the offensive coordinator. Now, I don't think it's official yet, but it seemed like all reports were saying that the Jets are bringing in Chan Gailey. Rob, we all understand they need offense. Why in the world would anyone bring in Chan Gailey as your offensive coordinator?
Because the Jets, this is the typical Jets show. They have no patience to wait to get a good offensive coordinator. Always rush. We've seen what we've had over the last couple of years. We've had Martin Morningweg. He was terrible. We got him right away after he got released by the Eagles. Don't ever understand why we picked him up. And now this pickup. Gailey was terrible with Buffalo. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 1 year starting off 6-0 and just finished and lost almost every game. I don't understand the moves. We need an offensive-minded coach. You want to produce a good quarterback in this league, and the Jets don't have that. We don't even have a quarterback that could throw for 10 touchdowns in the season, which is pathetic.
I just don't understand what in his past track record do you see that would show you that you should bring this guy in. You need somebody who's going to be young, bring in some new energy, new ideas. Chan Gailey's just a recycled guy who's never done anything. I'm just really surprised at it because it seemed like for Bowles especially, it seemed like this was the first piece of news we had about him coming out from getting this job. And like I said before, I like the Bowles hire a lot. I think it was a very good hire. But I don't understand what's the rush to get Chan Gailey. Why? There's no one else lining up at the Chan Gailey door, and there's a reason for that. Nobody wants him. Go away, Chan Gailey. I'm really surprised at that. I don't think it's a good move. I just think you need a younger guy. You need somebody young, somebody with more energy, somebody who'll do new things. I just really don't like it.
It's terrible. Joe, look at this stat right now. 2010, with his rushing game, he has Fred Jackson, C.J. Spiller, and Marshawn Lynch. Only gets 6 touchdowns the total year out of those guys. And they only rush for 17,020 yards. Those are 3 premier running backs in this league that are decent and no production out of that. Why bring in a guy like this? Why bring in a guy who doesn't have that much of an offensive mind? There's so much other we could have gone after.
Now, like I said before, it's not official yet, so let's hope that this is not true. It seems like it is, but maybe we'll send this to the Jets. they'll wake up and they'll realize Chan Gailey is not the right guy. But let's go on to the next adventure, because this wasn't the only piece of news for the Jets yesterday. Before Bulls got even hired, you had their new GM, Mike Maccagin from the Houston Texans. He was their college personnel evaluator guy. Now, I'll say this, Rob. It was definitely a low-key name. Not a lot of information about this guy. Seems like he's a very quiet grinder type guy. So I was a little surprised just by the name, but I think the Jets had to get a personnel guy. Idzik was a disaster. You couldn't get another numbers guy who didn't know football. You needed a personnel guy.
I mean, Joe, this guy's nothing that spectacular. With the Jets, another thing, we rushed with general managers. Well, we had to pick this guy because nobody else wanted to be the general manager for the Jets because how terrible this franchise is. I mean, he's a decent signing, but if you look at what they've drafted the last couple of years, the Texans, they really haven't got a big playmaker. Last year with Clowney, number one pick, turns out to be like one of the worst draft picks I've ever seen for number one. I mean, the general manager situation's not good. It's going to be a killer, I think, this year, unless he's willing to spend money. If he's willing to be not like Idzik, go out, get a couple cornerbacks, draft a decent quarterback. I mean, I'm really not too sold on this guy being as my general manager.
And here's the thing, too, is I was reading a lot. Like, he has no number experience, which I'm okay with because I'd rather get a personnel guy than a numbers guy. You could get people to help you crunch the numbers. It's about bringing in talent. So he's a guy who's going to be learning on the fly. He's got a lot of things to learn, but you did get a personnel guy. And I mean, you're right. You look at the last couple drafts for the Texans, not great. Now, it's not all on him. He's not the one who's actually drafting the players. He's the one who evaluates them. But you got to think his influence is pretty darn high on the GM if they're going to draft the guys he's scouting. So that means a little bit of something to me. But, well, it's interesting. I mean, I think Bowles is good. I like that hire. Let's still hope that the Chan Gailey thing doesn't happen. And GM, I think it's a coin flip right now. I mean, only time will tell what will happen with him. But Rob, your buddy Rex Ryan is in the news today again. At his press conference he had today, he's already guaranteed a playoff spot. Rob, is this Rex being Rex, or are the Bills actually have a shot to make the playoffs next year?
They have a shot with him. And you know what? A lot of people don't like that Rex comes out and talks that big all the time. I love his enthusiasm. I love that he does that before the season starts. He gives teams hope. And that's what teams need, like the Bills. We saw what he did with the Jets. When he came to New York, the first thing was, I'm going to have a parade down here someday, down in the city. I mean, he didn't reach his goal. He didn't get that goal. He made it to 2 back-to-back AFC championships. And now we look at this Bills team. He has a chance, Joe. He has one of the best defenses out there, and he's only going to make them better, especially with him as a coach. I mean, they're going to rely heavily on ground and pound because they really don't have a great quarterback right now. But I could see them doing a lot better.
See, I have no problem with him saying they're going to the playoffs. It's just when it's like Super Bowl, we're going to the Super Bowl every year. It's like, okay, come on, Rex. Playoffs I have no problem with. I mean, I said to you earlier before, I was like, I think the Jets are kind of a lot like the Bills are a lot like the Jets, only they have some better personnel. But you're right. I mean, they have a much better defense. Their secondary is not even comparable to the Jets right now. And offensively, I mean, you've got some nice pieces. Sammy Watkins, we all know how good he is. You've got a lot of running backs, some of them coming up their contracts, but we'll see how they figure that out. But, I mean, this was a team that was in the hunt almost all year last year. But Kyle Orton is now retired. It's all on E.J. Manuel. Now, for me, I'm not yet ready to close the door on E.J. Manuel. The weird thing for me was I never thought he was bad enough to be benched the rest of the year last year. He certainly wasn't great, but I never thought he was bad enough. Can Rex kind of get more out of E.J. than you think Marrone did?
I think he can because the thing with Rex, Joe, is trust. Rex forms that with all his quarterbacks that he has. You see with Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez, no matter how bad they play, he always kept that trust in them. And that's one thing you'll see with him and E.J. Manuel, their relationship coming into this season. I mean, I think he'll stick around with him. I think when you look at last year with the Bills, Marrone gave up too quickly with E.J. Manuel.
Definitely gave up way too quickly.
Just gave up on the kid. He's like, Kyle Orton's coming right into that. And you can't do that with a kid you just drafted. I mean, he was injured most of his rookie year. He's going to have a couple hardships coming back his sophomore year. And I think Rex kind of coming into this team, he's going to fix that relationship that they need between
and that's
coach
one
and quarterback.
thing you could never fault Rex for was his players always loved the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not one player who's ever said a bad thing about Rex. His only problem has been just developing offensive talent. That's the only thing that worries me with EJ is I think EJ's rookie year, you take away the injuries, I thought it was pretty good overall. It showed a lot of good things. Second year, not great, not terrible, not nothing. It was okay. I mean, that's probably the best way you could put it. And then Doug Marrone, I think, just really stunted his growth with the move he pulled. I mean, look, we know what Kyle Orton is. You were never going to be any better than 8-8 with him. It didn't make any sense putting him in over the young guy. Rex is going to play him. We'll see what he can do. I mean, I still have some hope. I think that there could be something there with EJ Manuel. And then the last piece of NFL news, Jack Del Rio. It seems like the Raiders and him are closing in on a deal. Rob, I like the move. I've always thought Del Rio did a great job in Jacksonville with not always the best talent. I mean, let's be honest. He had great running backs here, Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor, but his defenses, his teams were always organized. They were always won games, always competed. I think he's a good football coach. I think it's a good move for the Raiders.
Very decent move, Joe. I think he's going to be able to revamp their defense. That's what they really needed. They're settled right now. Carr is a decent quarterback.
He is.
And you know what? He's only going to grow and get better. He has wide receivers around him. He has somewhat all right running backs with him. But I think more Del Rio is going to focus on building up that defense to what Oakland should be. And I think they could actually last in this division.
And see, hiring a guy like him for a team like the Raiders is so smart because above all else, what you need is to be disciplined. And a guy like him is going to bring in that discipline. I mean, all you need to see is look at the Lions this year with Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell, very disciplined guy, transformed that team overnight. I mean, he took over one of the most undisciplined, penalized teams, just making the dumbest mistakes. It was hard to watch, to be honest. He cleaned it all up. They are a different team. It's a different culture. I like the hire a lot. Now, Carr is what I wanted to ask you about, and you said you do think he's good, but that's the question I keep asking. I do think that the guy has talent. Now, a lot of losses this year, but I never necessarily thought they were on him. I did like the growth I saw from Carr.
Yeah, he's excellent, Joe. And you look at the draft this year, I think he might have been the best quarterback drafted taken out of the draft last year.
I didn't think about that till now, but I'm not sure if I disagree with that. I mean, Bortles was not great, not terrible. I guess you could say that.
Manziel was
oh god,
train wreck.
Train wreck. Just cut ties. I mean, look, let's be honest. When the quote from your teammates is Johnny's biggest enemy was the playbook, it's time to move on. Let's be honest. I mean, come on. This is professional football. And that's the thing that we always thought is, Rob, I mean, you look at him. Do you really think that, what do you think he's more interested in, playing football or going out and having a good time?
Oh, he's more about going out. He doesn't care anything about his team. I watched him play a couple times this year. He has no clue what it's like to be in an NFL game. He needs to learn it's not college football where you could just throw these passes, you could do this run. He needs to learn to smarten up. I watched a couple plays this year when he went in to go score, and he got cracked in the head. You can't do that. You're going to end up with concussion. The guy has no smarts with him, has nothing with him.
And that's the thing, Rob, is I don't think he ever will learn because he even said earlier in the preseason, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to live my life differently. I don't think I should live my life differently. Look, there's a reason why Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady win all these games. It's because they know how to separate work and then your time to relax. I think Johnny only looks through things with one way. I'm just looking forward to having fun, having a good time. He's just not football has got to be the most important thing in your life, and it's just not the most important thing in his life. And you can't win when you don't prepare because the margin of error in the NFL is just too small. Everybody is so close. I mean, it's just you got to do every little thing you can to gain an advantage, and Manziel is not going to ever do that. I cut ties with him tomorrow.
I would in a heartbeat, Joe. He does nothing. I thought him coming to the NFL, he would actually change. I kind of had that feeling, he's going to Cleveland. Maybe he might change. Never happen. If I'm Cleveland, I don't even want him in my locker room, nor do I want him in the parking lot of my stadium because how immature he is. He doesn't belong in the NFL right now. You know what? Go find a broadcasting job or something.
He's good if you want to throw a party. That's about it. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this segment. Big Shot Rob addressing the Jets Nation, talking it all. Jets, don't do it. Chan Gailey, I know it's not done yet. Don't do it. We're begging you. Hopefully, it will not happen if you're a logical fan, but it very well might. So stay tuned here. We will be right back.